Yo, guys, welcome to Sunday service. Hopefully, you guys can hear me just fine. We are going to get started here in a couple of minutes, but I wanted to show you guys a couple of houses that we are looking at. So interesting to see even high-end homes. Actually, more often than not, high-end homes have seller carry opportunities. So we're going to jump into this for a second. Check this out. So my wife and I are looking for a property right now with a guest house, just because we have a lot of guests that come in from out of town. We live in, obviously you guys can see where I live right here. I live up in the Las Sendas area of the east part of town. Check this house out. This house, very, very cool. This house right here, seller is willing to do seller finance on this property. Look at this beautiful house. You wouldn't believe it's got a full guest house the size of most people's homes. Obviously, he's got a ton of orange trees all around. You guys hear me okay? Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me just fine. We're waiting for Cody to jump in here. He was over at my house doing a business meeting that ended up going a little bit longer than we expected. Oh my gosh, round 2 of the day. Matt is right. I'm so sorry. I did a 7-hour live this morning with my sub 2 students. So sorry for all of you guys that have to hear me again that heard me all morning long. You guys hear us okay? All right, awesome. Anyway, so check this out. You guys say it's beautiful. Okay, you're saying it's beautiful, which is really interesting because it is absolutely gorgeous. And I think my favorite part is the back end of the property. Very cool, very cool. Love it. This is the guest house. The guest house has a first and second floor, which is cool. Look at this venue, people. It's so big that they hold weddings here. And the seller is willing to carry. Now, this is where it starts getting a little bit spooky because you can see how much money they spent. It's very ornate, very Gothic. Check out like the saints, the statues. They obviously spent a bunch of money here. Now, this is where it starts getting a little bit creepy. Very gaudy. A lot of embellishments, tons of money was spent. Look at the ceiling in this house. This is where it gets kind of creepy. You've got a chapel. It's such a big property that they have their own church on the property. Now, this is just right down the road from my house, probably 1, 2, 3, 4 miles away from my house. I live right up in here, up against the mountain. And this house is really close to me. This is kind of where we're wanting to move. We want to move to the orange groves. You can see right here, the groves. You want to live kind of in this area because it's cooler, tons of orange trees, so things kind of cool down. But look at this. You're going to see that the seller, you guys will, it's surprising. You'll see this a lot, especially on these higher end homes. Where did I see that? Seller may carry. Here we go. Boom. Check that out. What do you guys think the seller would actually carry on this deal? What do you think they would actually carry on this deal? How much would they want down? What would they finance me at? Or would you guys be interested in me calling the seller and then following up with you guys? But look at this full-size chapel. Beautiful. And I'm actually surprised that this is only a $1.9 million home with how big it is, how beautiful the backyard is, how much money they spent on this property. I think it's just one of those houses that it's actually so out of date that it's almost like just a look. You just don't ever touch this. You don't ever try and remodel this. Look at the backyard on this thing. Unbelievable. I mean, the cost to build this thing is probably $3 or $4 million. Whoever built this definitely did not spare any expense. I think they built it primarily to be a home that has weddings and all that kind of stuff. Everything is gorgeous on this house. 8,000 square feet. Oh my gosh. Look at this. I mean, this stove right here is probably a $20,000 stove. Okay, so the seller is willing to carry here. So I could get in here without having to actually go get a loan for 1.9. They actually dropped, I believe the price. Okay, so they haven't dropped the price. I thought they dropped it $100,000. But I could get into this house. What do you guys think this seller would actually take? Yeah, Ken Fulton says in Texas that the home would be $500,000. I actually agree with you What's up, bro? How you doing?
Yo, what up?
Yo, dog. Cody just spent basically an hour and a half with me. Matt Johnson says, how did you find a listing with seller carrying? Cody, why don't you pull up on MLS? This is something I actually think we should talk about today. It's surprising what people don't understand about this is that there are probably 100 properties right now on the MLS that are willing to do seller carry.
Oh yeah.
Will you do a screen share right now of the MLS?
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
I can. Let's pull this up, guys. You guys, would you be interested to see how many seller carry properties are actively on the MLS? So, Matt, so Matt, we're going to show you this. This is very, very common. This is nationwide, by the way. This is not just Arizona. This is nationwide. You can do this anywhere in the country, and you can find people that are willing to sell or carry, especially in the higher end price range.
Definitely.
So, did you already filtered that?
Yeah. No, where do you want to see it? It's the financing type seller carry.
Love it. Can you change the terminology on that, like seller finance or anything like that, or is that just a box you just got to click?
Yeah, unfortunately these are the financing types that we can choose.
So tell everybody what you did there.
Yeah, so basically in the MLS here in Arizona, and I know it's similar or the same in every MLS for every market, you can search by financing type. And so basically what's happening is the realtor that has this property listed, they have, their client has selected that, hey, yeah, we would be open to carrying the note. We would be open to seller financing, because basically seller may carry the seller would carry on some sort of seller financing terms. So, feel free to bring that up and, put an offer together on a seller carry. Or seller finance, basically all encompassing under.
So it's interesting for people that are kind of new to real estate. They feel like because, here we are making a loud noise and talking about seller finance, subject to all that kind of stuff. They feel like creative finance is like this new thing. Even our seller on Des Moines, the house that we're closing on, I think Tuesday, the seller's like, man, you created this whole type of doing real estate. I'm like, not even close. I think we're way better at articulating it and understanding it so other people can understand it. But at the end of the day, this has been around for a long time, 50, 60, 70 years.
Yeah.
And technology actually makes it easy. So if you guys are out there looking to buy your own house for your own family, and you're like, where do I start? Go to the MLS and type in seller carryback. So let's look at what's available. Now, guys, here's the thing you need to understand. Maricopa County inventory is incredibly low right now. Very, very low. We're at an all-time low. So normally when I go into a seller carryback type of thing, yeah, Michael Fernandez, we get it, bro. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. So when I go into MLS normally in a normal market, we probably have 150 to 250 seller carryback opportunities. The problem right now is our inventory is incredibly low. Okay. Incredibly low. And Cody, I'm going to shut up and you walk us through the process.
Yeah. So, just active properties, this is all of, essentially mostly Maricopa County and then, Pinal County as well here in Arizona. There's 160 properties available that are willing to do a seller carry. And there's probably going to be low end mobile homes at the low price. And then obviously a lot of, exact right here. So, there'll be mobile homes all the way up to, there's a lot of high-end
Let's look at the mobile home listing. Let's talk about that one. Does it say anything about the press hide, by the way, on your stop sharing thing? And then on your, let's look at any details they might have in the remarks or in the notes or anything like that that might indicate a down payment or anything like that, because some sellers will actually put in the terms of what they'd be willing to do. Oh, I just saw that one. The one you were just on, I saw in the notes that says would be, I think it was like the $79,000 one.
Yeah.
Right. So let's read that one.
Yeah. So 2 bed, 1 bath, 1980, a fixed manufactured home, needs work on septic, 0.96 of an acre, as is sale, cash price 69,000. We'll consider carry at 79.5. Good down and good credit and good income or assets. Down payment. So over here is what the actual kind of a little bit more on the terms, like public remarks. The client or the buyer would see this. And then the realtor would be able to, share this information. So, they want 25,000 down if there's going to be a seller carry. And this is where under new financing, and so regardless of what MLS you're using, there's going to be something similar to find new financing type, or terms. This is what it's going to have. So they either want to cash.
Gene Davis asks, how do you pay the realtor?
The seller pays the realtor.
Right. So the seller pays the realtor their commission. So that's one of the reasons why this seller is particularly asking for a larger down payment, because they already know they're going to have to pay probably 6% out of their total down payment. The down payment comes to the seller, and out of that down payment, that seller's got to pay the real estate agent. So a lot of times real estate agents in these creative finance deals are the reason why the seller wants a big down payment. And they're the ones that end up hurting and killing the deal. We are lucky. We just sold one on Pueblo. Cody, do you have that? Do we have that listed on MLS? Maybe we can get to Pueblo later.
Yeah.
So you pay the real estate agent their normal commission on a listed property like this. Now, remember, guys, these aren't typically creative finance investors looking for a wrap buyer. These are typically homeowners that say, hey, if I was able to get the price I want, I would definitely be willing to be doing a seller carry. Why don't we get down to something a little bit more expensive? By the way, I look at that $69,000 deal, Cody, and I'm like, why don't we lock that thing up and then turn around and seller carry it out at like 115 with like $10,000 down?
I think because of the city that it's in.
Oh, where is it?
Miami, Arizona.
Oh yeah. All right. 100%. Nobody in Miami, even the mayor of Miami, doesn't have $25,000 down, bro. In fact, that might be the old mayor's mansion of Miami, Arizona.
This looks cool.
$1 million property.
$1 million property that the seller may carry.
Let's look at it, see if there's any details on what they would take.
Yeah, they don't have anything in the remarks on how they would do it. I want to find a property that does that. I think it would be
Craig Rogers. Are you from Globe, bro? Craig says Globe shout out. What are you talking about, bro? You must be the one guy from Globe, Arizona.
Frank's from Globe too.
He made it out, man. He made it out alive.
Yeah. Seeing if any of these have terms on them. Most of the time, so for people that may not be familiar with how these look at this one. So this property, they have all sorts of things going on. The seller of this property is doing a 1031 exchange. They're also open to doing a lease option on the property, and they're also open to, doing a seller carry on this property.
Interesting.
But they have no details of what terms they would be looking for.
So does anybody find this interesting to know that just about anywhere Marie says, do you buy in Globe? Cody, do we buy in Globe?
No, but we can help you sell a deal in Globe.
Yeah, here's the best way to make money in Globe. What you do is you buy a property, you burn it down, and then you get the insurance claim. That's the best way to make money in Globe in Miami.
Yeah.
So Chris Vasquez says, is the majority of your seller financing deals coming from the MLS or direct to seller marketing?
Direct to seller for sure. I mean, we don't typically buy anything off the MLS here. Some markets you can do that though. I mean, there's some out of town areas where people still do that. Or some smaller markets people do that. Definitely not here in Arizona though.
Yeah, the challenge is that real estate agents really hurt and kill deals. We've talked about this a number of times on this Sunday Service podcast. Is no offense to anybody that's a real estate agent, but it's almost as if when you get into Realtor school, the first thing that they teach you is how to blow up a deal. It's like, hey, everybody, welcome to Real Estate 101. Today is day one, hour one, and today we're going to be talking about how to destroy your own deals. Maybe even how to destroy the deals of other people because you don't know how to communicate or do your job. It is amazing. And look, It's
anything
the
different
what
besides
it's what is it?
legal.
Brandon Ben Israel says something that we joke about around. My wife sends us a text the other day and she says, "Do you know who hates real estate agents the most? Other real estate agents." That's all there is to it. And look, it's just like wholesalers. It's just like lenders. It's just like fix and flippers. There's really only about 5% of any group of people that are really, really good at their job. Okay.
Yeah.
So you just run into a lot of real estate agents that kill deals. So when you're trying to buy deals on the MLS through a real estate agent, especially when it's a seller carry, the group of real estate agents that understand creative financing is so minute that when you call that real estate agent, it's like, can I just please talk to the seller? In fact, the house that I live in right now, a real estate agent called me a week before their listing agreement ended. I ended up buying the house, and in my compensation agreement to the real estate agent is I wrote, I have direct communication with the seller, because I knew if I didn't go that route, the deal would have never gotten done.
No.
Right. Martin Spelsman. I use an assignment contract with contingencies to repair, then resell. Seller gets asking price. I repair and relist $100,000 higher. What wording would I overlook I need? Martin, I think we are missing some words in there. Same thing here. That 1031 exchange needs to move to Dealco. So sorry, I don't know what that means. Do I have to worry about the original seller refinancing the loan at any time after we have a sub 2? If so, what effect on as a buyer? Man, what is going on with spelling today? We had 3 people.
All the people.
You know what? People must be driving and doing this.
People.
Mr. Thomas, the seller does not have the right to refinance the property. And in my contract that we give to our students at sub2.com, the contract specifically states with the seller that they do not have the legal right any longer to refinance out that loan. We're very clear. Just doesn't happen. We don't ever see that happen. And if they did try to refinance the loan, they're not the owner of the property. All they do is have their name on the debt. So no, that very, very, very rarely happens. And in the masterminds that we're in and the people that we've been around for a long, long time, I have actually never heard of somebody running into that issue. Super good question though. Really, really good question. Cody, since Chris Vasquez asked that awesome question about where our deals come from, why don't we talk about Morrow? Where did the deal come from? What's the details on the address? I think we currently own the deal.
Yeah, we own it.
You want to break down the things start to finish, like where we got the deal, how long we followed up, what are the terms of the deal, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Your internet sucks, bro. You're breaking up like a robot. Get closer to your Wi-Fi router or plug in.
Dude, I'm literally in the room with the router.
That sucks. Oh, it's because you're trying to do screen share.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, cool. I was actually pulling up to see where Morrow was at. Might not have had. There we are. Morrow Drive was a text lead.
Text lead from Batch.
Yep, text lead from Batch from our Arizona high equity list. They owned it free and clear. Let's do this. Pull this bad boy up. So they own the property free and clear. This lead was actually being worked for a little while. I think there was a decent amount of phone calls. I think there was at least probably 25 or 30 phone calls before this deal actually came together. And
I was one of the original conversations up front. I talked to the seller and he said he would do seller finance, but I wanted 0%. He wanted 4%.
Yeah.
And we called him multiple times. So Chris Vasquez says, hey, what list type did we pull here, bro?
Dude, high equity. It was just a general high equity list. If you saw on the tags, it was actually on a couple. It was on a condo list. It was on two different lists as we were like the way that we were segmenting them. So it was on a high equity list, and it was also on a condos list. So high equity condos. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things that sometimes people have to realize is it's not the niche list where you get all of your deals from. I mean, there's these general high equity lists, especially when you're texting, you can reach so many people, and you'll be able to find a lot of people that want to sell through texting. I mean, I would say, just as a tip for those of you when you're trying to figure out how to set up your marketing, and especially if you don't have a big budget, if you're going to be texting, text the large lists. Obviously, text the small list, right? But there's not a lot of records. I mean, you only have so many pre-foreclosures. You only have so many probate properties every month, right? So text them. But if you're going to be really trying to target in on the niche list, like pre-foreclosures, probate, tax delinquent, things like that, and cold, as there's pain points. Now we do more of like kind of a blast per se, where we're texting. You're able to reach so many more people. And as you scale your marketing, you need to reach out to more people. So you need to hit these bigger lists. And so that's where this deal came from, was a general, a high equity condo list. That's where it came from. And it was a text lead.
Love it. So I'm going to ask you not to do a screen share, because every time you do a screen share, it's too much for your dial-up modem that you have over at your house.
All right.
Do you have your girlfriend in the other room with maybe like cranking some sort of mechanical object to keep the internet going? Is it on a crank system?
No. Oh, the internet? Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Or is it maybe with the heat of coals? Is that what's keeping your internet alive?
No, a hamster actually runs on a wheel, and if it gets tired, everything falls apart.
Love it. So let's go through some questions here, bro.
Oh, so average amount of texts that we send a month. We have 3 text VAs that send 2,500 texts a day.
Where do you get your VAs from? Wow, your internet is shit. All right, guys. So check this out. I'm going to answer most of these questions. Every time we do this Sunday service and I'm trying to get Cody to talk, he has this dial-up modem stuff going on.
No way.
Yeah, it's really bad. Restart your computer and come back.
All right.
Okay. This is an interesting topic. So Renee says, real estate school is not about creative finance. It's about traditional list and sell with state approved contracts. Most brokerage don't allow agents to practice creative finance for liability reasons, and the broker insurance doesn't cover it. Second, non-licensed people who try to be in real estate are very uneducated in many of the areas of the business. More often, inexperienced people trying to be in real estate, also with zero background, are a liability and blow up deals in creative finance. I do not see that. I do not have that same experience. How many people do we have working for us? So that's a great question. We listed out all of our businesses today. Cody and I own a title company. We own a virtual assistant business. We own fix and flip business, wholesale business, a buy and hold business, a property management business, and a handful of other things that we don't necessarily need to get into. But we have a little over 150 people currently working for us. In state, we have a little over 45. Outside of the country, we have a little over 110. So we have a lot of employees, a lot of operations going, obviously. So I do like this topic. Real estate agents do not like when I pick on real estate agents. And they do say that, Terrence says she sounds like a straight up agent. That is absolutely correct. But I actually like her. She's always been really good. She makes really good comments, and I do like that topic. Maybe we should get into that topic and have her on as a guest one day. Sunday service. That's right. If someone had a lot of cash laying down as a first rental, would you advise someone to start with the BRRRR strategy? No, I would never advise somebody to start with BRRRR strategy. In my opinion, the BRRRR strategy is an antiquated, old school model. Yes, because you are training new people that mostly are unlicensed. So Can I tell you something? I feel like when a real estate agent gets a license, it's a license to steal and lie to people. I deal with a lot of real estate agents. And the reality is I went through real estate school. I dropped my license because the reality is the 2-week education that you go through is absolute garbage. You go through plotting out maps and looking at this. You actually don't go through any customer service. You don't go through any problem solving. You don't go through any actual comping of properties. Real estate agents don't actually learn how to be real estate agents in real estate school. If they're lucky, they go and work with a broker. If they're lucky, they go work with a broker that actually cares enough to educate them so that they can go and make a difference. The amount of real estate agents who actually make an impact in the market is very, very slim. It's unfortunate, but if you sit in the room, I've sat in the room with Open Door and OfferPad and some of these businesses, and their conversation behind the scenes is that they want to destroy the real estate agent model because it is a disservice to the business. So I hate to say it, my wife is a real estate agent. She lists all of our properties. Cody is a real estate agent. There's a lot of value there, but don't take it as an offense if I'm not talking about you. I also said that most wholesalers are crappy. Most lenders are crappy. Most human beings in general are crappy. Most people are just simply lazy. Seriously, the real estate education, when you're sitting there for that 2-week course, name one thing that you actually utilize in your business. One thing. It's garbage education, garbage. And I almost want to go through it again, record the entire training. Cody, do you remember when you went through real estate school?
Yes.
What did you learn? What did you learn in real estate school that you actually use today?
I mean, not really much at all. Like, it just like you learn general real estate terminology. Like the vocabulary was really the only thing that was somewhat relevant, but you learn so much that isn't relevant at all. And you basically learn that anything outside of doing a traditional real estate transaction is illegal and you shouldn't do it. And you're going to get sued. And that's pretty much the things that they shove down your throat in school.
Right. So it's high school is the same way. So I'm not picking on real estate school, but high school, college, and all that kind of stuff is the same thing. It's basically putting you through the movements. Nothing really teaches you anything. It's only a disservice to the traditional business in comparison to yours. So we do traditional business. We do land development. We do fix and flip. We do buy and hold. We do all of those things. Those are very traditional things. And yes, we wholesale from time to time. And yes, we buy creative finance. Here's an interesting thing. The seller that we're getting a testimonial on Tuesday is absolutely going to shred real estate agents to pieces. If you're a real estate agent, you're defending the real estate agent world, and you don't see the validity in wholesaling and creative financing, and you watch this testimonial, you're either going to just dig your heels in deeper into your belief, or you're going to actually be open-minded and realize that a lot of real estate agents lie to clients and say, I can sell your house for this, in a desperate attempt to get a listing contract, lock people up for 6 months with no actual ability to sell that property. They're just hoping they get somebody to offer that price. That's really the only competitive advantage that real estate agents have, is one real estate agent over the next. What's your competitive advantage? Your competitive advantage is how much you're willing to lie, how much you're going to list the property for. Because the real estate agent doesn't actually sell the property. The listing agent definitely does not sell the property. What sells the property? The market price sells the property, and the buyer's agent sells the property.
The three things that sell a property, we always would joke about this, like in like the different agent masterminds that I was in, was listing, professional pictures, number 2, listing it for it should actually sell out for the market is number 3. That's the marketing plan that actually works. And if any agent tries to tell you different on the median price point or below, is full of crap.
This is why flat fee listing companies came out. This is also why there's $99. There's also why there's $99 listing services out there where you can pay somebody $99 to list your property, because most real estate agents are hard to work with. Do you realize, look at this statistic. Do you realize that the majority, over 80% of real estate agents have never bought their own property?
It's funny. It's like
Interesting, isn't
there's
it?
memes. You see the memes about it. It's like, I sell houses so one day that I could hopefully afford one. Like,
Exactly. I love those memes. So anyway, I'm not trying to beat on real estate agents. I love and respect the real estate agents who work their guts out the same way I love and respect wholesalers, fix and flippers, and everybody else. The challenge is that the majority of any industry is just like the majority of the human populace at a whole, is that most people are lazy. They do the bare minimum and they lie their way to get their next paycheck. That's all it comes down to. So
I wanted to answer the question. My thing was falling apart. So hopefully you could hear me.
You're breaking up already right now.
Oh.
Yep. Paula Haddad says, Finley, could you please explain better why you don't recommend the BRRRR model? So in order to do the BRRRR model, you actually have to have a considerable amount of cash tied up into a deal. Now, Cody, on the back end of a BRRRR strategy, what happens is I go buy a property typically with, you're not typically buying a BRRRR strategy with a traditional loan. You're going and getting a hard money loan, you're renovating it, then you're going to rent it out, stabilize it for 6 months while you're paying hard money fees and all these payments and all that kind of stuff. Then on the back end of the BRRRR strategy, in order to get a portion, because you're not going to get much of your money out, but in order to get a portion of your money out, how do I do that? I have to go get another loan. The lenders that we have used, and everybody lies. Everybody says, "Oh, I'm this, I'm that. I can give you 80% LTV. I can give you 90% LTV." What is the actual LTV that we have seen that? And these guys are all bait and switchers too. All these freaking lenders that do BRRRR strategy lending, they're bait and switchers. What are we seeing? What's the percentage?
65% of LTV, 70% maybe. I mean, it's very difficult. I mean, especially right now with COVID, a lot of things changed recently with the lending guidelines.
Right. I feel like if we're going to run a mile, the BRRRR strategy is running a mile barefoot. Can it be done? Yes. It's incredibly painful and it ends up not being worth it. Utilizing creative financing is like running in brand new shoes and brand new socks. You're essentially running the same race, but we can run 4 times as fast and have way less pain and effort. That's basically why I think the BRRRR strategy is does it work? Yes, it does work. But while you're doing one BRRRR strategy deal, we've done 3 sub-2s and 4 seller finance deals in the same amount of time with the same amount of cash. So I actually don't know anybody that does the BRRRR strategy that is into a BRRRR strategy with $0 out of pocket. The majority of the time they're investing a considerable amount of money and their return is really not that good. Do we do the BRRRR strategy? Yes, but we do it only in very specific areas that we want to buy a property. So if we see an area that we say, hey, we want to do a student rental next to ASU. That makes sense to do the BRRRR strategy because you can't just wait for a sub-2 or wait for a seller finance opportunity to pop up in that area. The BRRRR strategy is when you want to target a very specific house that you can go after. Okay. Now, Mamadou Diallo says he's got like $200,000. Okay. You've got like $200,000 in cash. What I would look at is in order to go build a portfolio, you could go probably buy 10 sub-2s or 10 seller finance deals with $200,000 in your own cash, not use any of your own credit and not be limited by banks or any other things. Here's the other thing with a BRRRR strategy. If I go get a BRRRR strategy loan, Cody, what would be my typical rate if I go get a BRRRR strategy refinance on the back end?
6 to 8%, depending
6 to 8%.
Yeah.
What would you say is the average sub-2 seller finance we deal? If you just put them all in one big bundle, what would you say the average rate we have on all of our loans is?
3.75, maybe 4%.
I mean, wow. I was thinking like with the 0% seller finance deals we have in there,
including the ones that we took over just sub-2, not seller carries.
Yeah. So between seller carries and our sub-2s, what would you say we're at? Like 2.75, 3% maybe?
Yep. Definitely.
Right. So Your interest rate is double in the BRRRR strategy. Your entry fee is double. The time it takes to do the deal is double. I don't see the advantage with the BRRRR strategy. Does it work? Yes. There's a lot of books about it. It does work. But I do feel like, Oscar, by the way, speaking of Oscar, thank you, Oscar, for being our lender on
Dallas.
You just got paid off, brother. We really appreciate you.
Thanks for showing me and Heil around Chicago too, Oscar. That was awesome.
Guys, if you're not following Oscar, make sure you follow Oscar. Please put your Instagram name in the chat. I'd love to get people to follow you. You're an amazing guy. You just loaned us money in a secondary position. You are our gap lender on a fix and flip. How much did we make on that fix and flip, Cody?
For Dallas?
Uh-huh.
It was 69,000 and some change was the profit on that one.
So I'm going to pull that one up. Does anybody care to see a settlement statement on a fix and flip? Has anybody ever seen a settlement statement before?
I think that'd be super cool. I think a lot of people on here that are new probably haven't.
Let's look through it.
Can you hear me okay? Or were you messing with me, or can you actually hear me?
I can hear you right now.
Okay. Just while you're pulling that up, here's Oscar's Instagram, guys. While you're pulling that up, somebody asked earlier about how many texts we're sending a month.
Yeah, that was a good question.
We're sending, so I plan out our marketing a month in advance at the end of each month. So for the month of September, we're going to send 202,500 text messages. We should receive about 235 text leads from that. On average, a lead every 860 texts that we send. And we have 3 VAs that are doing that for us. So
love it. All right, guys. So this is a settlement statement. As you can see up in the upper right-hand corner, settlement statement. Basically, we're going to be sharing some pretty interesting information here. So you can see the borrower. This is the guy who bought the property from us. This is us, the seller. We sold the property. And this is the lender that gave him the loan. Okay. So they came in, they bought the property from us at $264. And I won't go through every little thing, but take a look at this. Look at the cost to close escrow. It's very expensive to close escrow. People do not understand this at all. By the way, these are things that you actually don't learn in real estate schools, what a settlement statement looks like. You actually have to do deals in order to learn this. Our proceeds, check it out. So it says due to the seller right down here. In the due to seller column, it shows 77,558. So that's after our lenders got paid. That's after everybody got paid. Why, Cody? Why did we have a $77,000 check, but we only made $69,000?
Well, there's other expenses that come into play. And so sometimes on deals, they cost a little bit more. And also on this deal, those of you that weren't following it, our entire crew working on this deal got coronavirus. Do you remember that? That delayed our rehab time about 2.5 weeks. They were down and out. So it slowed down the renovation for the property. And then we did a couple change orders too. There's a couple things that we wanted that we added to the budget. So we went a little bit over budget, but at the end of the day, the buyers were super happy and it was the right thing to do to, make everything just pop with the house. So we added a little bit.
Yeah. So anyway, we've got $77,000 we received in a check. Our actual net on that property was about $69,000 because of what Cody just talked about. Now that $69,000, I think this is probably the coolest thing, is that did we actually get that full $69,000 or what did we do with that?
We had a JV partner that got 50% of that.
Right. So speaking of JV partner, think about, I think Keen is in here, but does everybody know who Keen is? She's the one who won the first deal giveaway. And we are very much involved. We are so deeply excited about this. Has anybody been following the first deal giveaway? Give me a yes in the comments, guys, if you guys are following the first deal giveaway. And bonus points to the person who knows the name of the house. What's the name of the house and what the street name is? Give me some yeses. So Darren Talcott says, Pace, what info will Tino need if we find one of these possible owner finance leads on MLS is one of your targeted markets for no excuses? So Darren, here's the challenge with this. If you're going after the existing MLS seller carrybacks on the MLS, they're not typically the best opportunity for investors. These are homeowners looking to get 20, sometimes 30% down payments. They actually want more balloons as well. So if you want to buy one of these properties for yourself, let's say you're a business owner, you're a 1099, you're a real estate agent. That's the ironic thing about being a real estate agent is that your job history is not good enough for a lender to give you a loan. Isn't that so freaking weird? How hard is it to get a loan as a real estate agent?
I mean, just self-employed in general, it's it's annoying.
Well, self-employed is one thing, but real estate agents have these ebbs and flows, right? So they'll go 3 or 4 months without a paycheck. Then they all of a sudden get $40,000, $50,000. So if you're a real estate agent and you want to become one of the 20% of real estate agents that actually have ever bought a property in their life, a seller carryback on the MLS would be a good opportunity for you. But as an investor, buying a seller carryback on the MLS is typically not a good choice because that seller is going to be, number one, coached by an agent. And what does that mean? The agent wants all their commissions. And number two, the seller is probably not that desperate. They're not in a bad situation. There's not really a problem for you to solve. They just simply want too high of a number, which is why they're willing to do a seller finance. Mamadou says, when I started wholesaling, I started by connecting with real estate agents. And after 2 weeks, I realized that they mostly know nothing about investing. They made me lose $50,000 just to get a listing. That is correct. And look, at the end of the day, there's a lot of wholesalers that don't know a lot as well. So it looks like we got a lot of people following the first deal. Oh, look at that. Who said Butler? Who was that?
Sue.
That's awesome that it's Butler. Let's jump into D Thomas. Cody, what do you think about this?
Cash flow is great in a D area in my market. I can sub to till my heart's content, but I wouldn't want to live there. Is it a smart idea to invest there? I mean, my personal opinion, I wouldn't want to invest in like a D class. If that's what you mean by D, like a D class type of property. We're fine with like B, C class, but we don't want to be in a high crime area. Because then you got to deal with people breaking it. Like when your property is vacant, people are breaking into it. Pace, I didn't tell you about this, but a property we wholesaled about a month ago, I got a call from the police about 2 weeks ago at 11 o'clock at night. They called me 6 times in a row. I didn't even have my phone. And so I finally answered, and they're like, the seller said that they sold the property to you. This was your company that bought this property. It was in Maryville. And it was a vacant property. They're like, we have someone in custody that broke into your property. They broke in through the back window, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't own that property. We sold it to someone else. So,
oh, wow.
Sorry. Yeah.
What house was it?
I don't even remember the address. 50th Drive, I think it is in Maryville.
Did they just pull up old records or something?
No. So what they did is because I actually was involved talking to the seller because there was an agent, their agent friend got involved. So I had to come in and just like reassure them that we're legit. So normally I wouldn't have even, known or been called, but I got introduced to the seller. So the seller gave the police my phone number because they thought we bought it, obviously, because we contracted it and wholesaled it. So they thought we were still the owners of it.
Dude, I freaking love that. Does anybody want to see the recording of us locking up the first deal contract? I actually recorded it on my laptop, me talking to the seller. If I get enough yeses, I'll give you guys the link. You guys can see the recording of me locking up that Butler contract, the one that we just started with the first deal giveaway. And let's jump into some questions. Anna says, here you go, Cody.
What do you say to a realtor when they call you after responding to a text that I sent directly to the seller? This was from an expired listing campaign that I ran. I mean, it depends. It depends, what are you trying to target them for? Are you trying to buy their property cash? Or are you trying to get it sub 2? So just depending on what you're trying to accomplish there. I mean, if they have a new listing agreement, it depends. Like if some people, here's my experience as working as an agent. Some of the clients that I had were so loyal. If anyone tried to reach out to them, outside of even, if they tried to go directly to them, they would be like, nope, you got to talk to my realtor. And literally they wouldn't even respond to the person. They would just send them my information or tell me to call them. So, I mean, you might have a super loyal client agent relationship, but I mean, it depends what you're trying to accomplish.
Right. So, let me try and answer that question for a second. Ooh, this is good. This is an interesting one. Shelby says, how do you guys usually approach realtors for their expired listings? That's the beautiful thing. You don't have to approach a real estate agent for their expired listings. They failed to complete their job. An expired listing is just that. They no longer have control over the listing. It is not their listing anymore. You reach out directly to the seller and you say, hey, were you fatally burned by a real estate agent just like so many other people were? We'd love to potentially buy your house and actually complete our job. Would you be open to still selling your property? Actually, here's what we actually say. We reach out to the seller and we say this. We say, hey, just noticed your property was pulled off the market. Was there something that you were looking for but did not get by listing through a real estate agent? That's the line that we use. Hey, noticed your house got pulled off the real estate market. Was there something you were looking for that you couldn't accomplish by listing through a real estate agent? And have an open communication. Guys, we got a ton of yeses. So I'm going to leave this Dropbox link in here. This Dropbox link will send you to a video. It's about 20 minutes of me talking to Wes and his brother, locking up the contract for the house on the Butler Drive house, which is the first deal giveaway house. Cody, do you know where this lead came from?
Butler?
Yeah.
Probate attorney.
There you go. Probate attorney. So guys, you have to understand that while we do spend a lot of money in marketing, we have a lot of really good strategies that bring us multiple deals a month based on zero marketing expense. So this one is, so Wade Haldeman says, I apologize if I missed it, but had to take a call. The first deal winner was on Butler. Right. That is correct, Wade. Keen won the first deal giveaway, and that is on Butler, which is the Dropbox link that I just shared with you guys. It's the video of me talking to the seller for the first time. Now, if you want to see what Wes looks like, which is the seller, go to my Instagram and you'll see him give us a 3-minute testimonial all about the process and how we took care of him and all that kind of stuff, which is super cool. Check this out. You want to jump on this one?
Yeah, let's see. Almost 90% of expired listings I call say, what are you talking about? That sold a year ago. Why do you think that is? I mean, that just depends on where you're getting your data from. You can be getting it from PropStream. You could also get it from, I think Batch just launched their expireds. I need to double check on that. I know they were talking about it, but if you have a realtor, the way to get probably the most updated is directly from the MLS. So if you have a realtor, that's how I would call, when I was working as a realtor, how I would actually call the most recent expireds was I would pull from the MLS the listings that just expired that night, like the day before. So going into that day, I had the newest expired. So it's going to depend on, what you're calling. But what I actually had more success with working as an agent when I was calling expireds and canceled was calling older ones, people that failed to sell their home in the last year to 2 years. They either canceled the listing or they failed to sell their home. Their agent failed to sell their home and they have not sold the property since, because a lot of times, they get in their head that their agent, because I know this from being an agent, they're like, let's just, you should probably wait. It's probably, since it didn't sell, it's probably not the right time. You're going to have to wait 6 months or a year, and then let's try to list it again. And that's a lot of times what people do is they wait or they rent it out for a year. They're like, well, it didn't sell, so I'm just going to rent it for a year. I'm going forward with my plans of moving out of state or whatever. So a year-old to 2-year-old cancels and expireds are actually super valuable. That's where I got most of my listings from when I was working as an agent versus the brand new ones that are pissed off getting called by 50 realtors plus investors the day after.
Love it. So how about, let's jump on this one. This is a really good question, Cody.
Yeah. So do you have specific text messages for targeted list or are the texts the same regardless of the list? Yeah, the texts are the same regardless of the list. It's a frequency of messaging that's different based on the list. So like the pre-foreclosures, we hammer those. Like we're hitting those pretty much every 2 weeks. The more generic, larger bulk lists, we'll hit those like once a month. So like within that 202,500 text messages that we're going to send this month, of that data, about 150,000 of that is older data, and then the other 50,000 and some change is new data. So we're re-hitting some of those people that have never responded to us in the past, and then we're hitting new data. So we get a mix of hitting people for the first time and then also hitting people that never responded to us over the last couple of weeks, last couple of months.
What are the top 3 things you learned from May until now? Craig, I really like that question. Cody, what do you got?
Top 3 things you learned.
Give me one thing that you've recently learned, whether it's from that book you're reading right now. What's the book you're reading? I forget.
The Road Less Stupid.
The Road Less Stupid.
So one of the biggest takeaways from that is think time. And, you know, that the think time, it got elevated when I went, when I was at this previous mastermind a couple months ago, where I was challenged as we're business owners, we get in the trap of doing and being in the business so much that we're just, we're doing, that we don't always take enough time to step back and focus on the business and thinking about it. So I would say the biggest thing that I've implemented and that I've learned in the last few months is actually setting aside think time, where now I have 3 to 4 times a week where I'll spend an hour on each individual business and break down where everything's at. I mean, I have the book going through that next to me here, where I go through some questions like where, within our wholesale business, where am I stuck or discontent? How have I failed to resolve this? How can I overcome this challenge that I currently have? What do I want the next 7 days, 30 days, 90 days to look like? And I'm constantly doing that every single week for each business that we're working so that we can continuously improve it. So I would say that's the biggest thing for me, is being able to be okay with when there's chaos going on, taking a step back, spending an hour and working on that business and identifying challenges, and then creating solutions and action items to take from that thinking session, and doing those a few times a week.
I love that. I like that a lot. Craig Rogers says, from the interview you had in Don Costa back in May, what are the top 3 things you learned from then until now? The things that I think I learned is don't listen to other people that are not, it's kind of what Kanye West says. Kanye West says, I don't take advice from people less successful than me. And I've been in meetings and masterminds with people that are doing a few deals a month. And when they say something, there's been times where I'm like, maybe I should pay attention to that. I really needed to learn this year that I cannot take advice from people that are less successful than me, or not so much less successful than me, but people that are either stagnant or people that are just not aspiring to do more. And you got to really have to figure out how to filter those people out of your life. That's probably number one thing I've learned this year. It's unfortunate it took that long for me to truly like go through enough pain and heartache to finally realize that. But good question. Collective Lounge says, if I'm brand new, how do I know which list would be best for my market? I would say that there's a few lists that are good for every market.
Yeah.
But you then also have a question of what is your budget? Do you have a budget? Because if you don't have a budget, I would say go download Batch Driven, and I'd say go drive for dollars virtually or physically, or if you really want to, maybe go and knock doors. I've got 2 appointments tomorrow from our door knocking team. That app is like $100 a month. So if that's your budget is $100 a month, I would look at Batch Driven. If you have more than a budget and you're actually wanting to pull big lists and start texting it, then Cody, what would you suggest to pull your first list in any market? Forget about which market, just any market.
Pre-foreclosures.
Why pre-foreclosures?
Pre-foreclosures are already raising their hand. I have financial pain. I have financial distress. There's something going on that there's a situation. It's a health situation. It's a job loss. It's, a loss of income from, one of the people living in the household. There is a financial issue going on in that household, or the ownership of that household, that's causing them to not make their payments. So why not, when you're brand new, focus on the people that are saying, hey, like literally public record, hey, there is a mortgage not being made here on this property. That's where I would focus my time on if I'm brand new.
Love it. Great answer. By the way, we've got a question about batch driven, because we just switched over from Go Knock to batch driven. We partnered with Batch on a more deep, intimate level. And the question is, what would you recommend to help transition from Go Knock to batch driven? The way to transition is just simply delete the app Go Knock and re-download it as batch driven, and all your information is going to be the exact same. It's just reskinned. Some new tools have been added, some additional features, stuff like that. So now go to batchdriven.com if you guys are going to start downloading that. But Go Knock is batch driven. We've just rebranded it because we've brought on some additional partners because of how excited they were. Jamari says, and by the way, we love Jamari. Jamari is an amazing guy. He's out there, probably one of the best TikToks, I think, in the game. Probate is motivated too, but timeline is a lot longer. So probate's interesting. Jamari's correct. I mean, the deal that we just did on Butler, their timeline was right now. And you guys will listen to that in my deal. The second their parents passed away, it was like, we want to make a decision right away. Okay. Probate, you are right. Jamari, I'd say that there's probably 10 to 20% of the new probate filings every month, they sell that month. Then the other 80% of the probate filings sell over the next several months. And some of them, about 10% of them, sell after a year or even sometimes 2 years. So like Cody said, foreclosures are absolutely the way to go, because they have a ticking time bomb in their hand, and it's your job to diffuse that foreclosure. Okay. Let's see here. A couple of really good questions, actually.
I like this one because a lot of people ask about this. So we've had a pre-foreclosure that asked to save them and stay in the home. How do you get past that? So number one, don't ever agree for them to be able to stay and live in the home and buy it from them. You never want to do that. But here's the thing that we do, and I think Matt Beard, when he's been door knocking and building the door knocking team with us, he's done a great job at setting these expectations. Is these homeowners, guys, you have to understand, they don't want to leave their house. They're being forced to leave their house because they can't afford their payment. Their memories are there. Their family is there. That's their whole life. That's where they want to stay. So that's where they want to stay. So Sean, what you have to realize is it's just maybe not the right time, and to continue following up with them. Most of the time, what you want to do is talk to them about options that they have. Mr. Seller, have you tried to do a loan mod? Have you tried to get a private loan? It's like, what is it? The seven options, Pace, the 7 things.
Yeah. It's if you guys go to YouTube, I'll actually drop the link, but it's the pre-foreclosure mastery. There's 8 steps.
Perfect. So there's 8 steps, guys. And so Sean, what you want to do is you want to be kind of more of a consultant for them, that, hey, you have these options. And then so you can help kind of give them advice on some options that they could attempt to do. And if all of those options fail, hey, we can buy the property. That's how most of the time when we're buying the pre-foreclosures, we're not buying them because they, because they're, ready and they just want to sell. It's all of their options didn't work, and we're essentially their last resort to actually help them solve their problem.
A couple of really good questions here. By the way, guys, the YouTube channel that Cody just referenced is Pre-Foreclosure Mastery. It has 24,000 views basically just in the last 6 months. Very popular. We reference it a lot. Brent Daniels interviewed me in front of this whiteboard right here about the top things that we tell sellers that are in pre-foreclosure. So go watch that video. It's very, very good. I'm going to knock through a bunch of questions to catch up, because we got about a dozen in here that we haven't quite answered. So let me just hammer through them real quick. Hey, Hey, okay. Nina's just taking notes. Thank you, Nina. Really appreciate that. And let me start from where they are. Okay. Thank you, Craig. You're the man. Okay. So what would you recommend? We already talked about that. Switch from GoKnock to batch driven. Just delete the app, re-download it as batch driven. I don't know if your name is Daryl or what, but I really apologize. I don't know your first name. In sub 2, is the seller still required by the original lender to keep insurance in their name, or am I free to replace insurance under my LLC's name? This is something I teach my students at sub2.com in a very, very detailed fashion. I'm actually going to test my students that are watching right now and see if somebody else can answer this in the comments. Sabina is currently dealing with this right now. Sabina, if you want to help him answer that question, I would be super grateful. That'd be awesome. What are some new tools added to batch driven? Oh my gosh, there's a whole bunch. But one of the ones that they're adding right now is the ability to comp properties through that app. So that's super exciting. They've also added additional ways to do team building, which is really important for Cody and I because we have currently 4 door knockers that are out knocking doors. Super exciting. Sean says, we've only had pre-foreclosures. Ask them if they, okay, well, you already answered that. Daryl Banks. Pace, I just got this from a high performance guy some years back. He says, I will run with the runners. I'll even walk with the walkers, but I am not going to sit with the sitters. 100%. Love that, brother. Thank you. Terrence, if someone deceased today, how long would I wait to call or contact that property? And should I approach the same as any other list? Cody, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, reaching out to them as soon as possible. I mean, here's the deal. It's like door knocking in a way where it's like, yeah, some people are going to be home in the morning. Some people are going to be home in the afternoon. Some people are going to be home in the evening. Same thing with when people pass away. Some family members, they want to sell right away. Some don't want to sell for a while, and some want to wait a very long time before they even want to sell. So it's going to depend on the personality. So I'd rather get to them as soon as possible rather than waiting. Because like Pace said, the seller Wes, they were ready to sell now. They didn't want to wait 6 months, 12 months. They wanted to sell now. So I wouldn't get caught up in, when's the right time? The right time is now. And you will know based on the timing of the conversation whether they're ready or not. And, the ones that aren't ready right now, just follow up with them.
Yeah, a couple of good questions here. So how do you pitch a sub-2 or seller finance to somebody that's old and knows that they won't be around much longer? There's 2 things that they really care about. They feel like they want to enjoy their money before they die. They really don't. It's really funny how a lot of these people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s that we're buying houses from, they've never lived extravagant lifestyles. They've been very frugal their whole life. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, I want my money before we die. We're like, well, why? Why don't we just have your family take it over and take the cash flow over? And why don't they buy it either on an agreement for sale? Or not an agreement for sale. Why don't you just transfer the note to them, or they inherit the payments? And so that's the way we structure the note. When we create the note between the seller and ourselves, the note instructs us that when the seller deceases, the family members who are the inheritance will receive the cash payment. And a lot of sellers are okay with that. The sellers that are not okay with that typically want a 5 to 10 year balloon. And actually the house that we just bought on Morrow, what was the balloon on that? 5 years?
Yeah.
The reason we're willing to buy that house on a balloon is because the seller financed that house to us at 1.5% interest, very low interest rate in a really good area that we know in 5 years, it's going to appreciate. Even if a market takes a dip, we're safe on that purchase. So we're very comfortable with that. So either a balloon helps out with that, or telling the seller that you're willing to continue to make the payments to their family, the inheritance after they pass away. What's a good opening when calling a foreclosure? So Harvey Martinez, I'm putting a YouTube link in here that goes to Brent Daniels' YouTube channel. Really popular video, just talked about it. Go watch that video and you're going to get broken down exactly what we say to sellers. Craig Rogers, I like how Pace said on the Vegas sub-2 when the guy wanted to cancel. Oh, Craig is referencing, I don't even think Cody knows about this. Craig is referencing a call that I had with a seller. So let me give you guys a quick backstory. So Dylan Good, who's a student of sub2.com, gets a seller or gets a wholesaler to bring a no equity deal to him. And he says, I don't know what to do with this, Pace. I'm brand new in your course. Help me out. And I go, just let me talk to the seller. So I lock up the seller for my student, Dylan. That's all recorded. Everything we do with seller calls is recorded, so we can help you guys out. And end up getting the seller to say, I don't want $10,000 down anymore. I want $0 down. So we bought the house for $0 down from the seller. That is a house that we currently own in Vegas and nets $1,700 a month in cash flow from an Airbnb, which is awesome. But right before we closed escrow, the seller says, I want to cancel. And Dylan Good says, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do? And I said, first and foremost, don't freak out. We're going to call this seller in 3 or 4 days and let him know that he's not at the top of our priority list. And he has a legally binding contract on this house. There's nothing he can do to get out of this. So I called the seller. My students, like Craig Rogers and other students, watched me call the seller live. And I told the seller, I said, hey man, I really feel bad, but we already have a family planning on moving into the house the day we close escrow. They sold their house. They're moving into rent. They got relocated for a job opportunity. Man, I'm going to have this whole family on the street if we cancel this contract. I just can't put myself in that situation. And I was about to say, hey, I'll cancel the contract if you don't mind calling the wife and kids that we're going to put on the street. And the seller says, oh, you know what? You're right. You're right. Let's just finish the contract and move forward. So Craig is referencing that recorded call that I did where most of my students were able to watch that live. That was really cool. Mama Dow says that pre-foreclosure video is really good. Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. Cody, once the pre-foreclosure, you got one that you like?
One, I just like, this is so good because we talk about this, but it's not necessarily related specifically to doing deals, but book recommendations to overcome being content and get inspired to grow my wholesaling business. I fall into being content every time I hit 100K cash in the bank and slack off working. Here's the biggest secret to never slack off working. Get rid of your money. You don't need to have all that cash sitting in the bank. Buy rentals, buy some sub-twos, invest your money so you don't have 100 grand sitting cash in the bank. I mean, have a healthy reserve that you need to, take care of personal finances and your business, right? But you shouldn't just stack up money just to stack money, because that is what causes you to be lazy. So I would say just managing your money different. I would read the book Profit First. Mark, that I put that down in the comments there, but I would read the book Profit First. It talks about, as far as managing your money as a company. And then I would look at, managing your money differently that you're saving. Because if every time you get to 100 grand, you slack off, you're going to continue in this up and down cycle of never really growing your net worth. You're never really going to advance because you're just allowing yourself to be at this, your thermometer is set at, I'm comfortable at 100 grand in the bank, and you got to change that.
Right. I love that. Brent Daniels just did an excellent video on what to do with your money. I think I was in that video. Was I? Let me see here real quick. Let's see. Brent Daniels, Pace, Morby. We just filmed it like 3 days ago. I'd be so surprised if he actually got it out.
That's quick.
No, it's not. I don't think it's out yet. But him and I broke down a whole whiteboard video the other day of why to buy real estate. And I gave all the reasons. We broke down depreciation. We broke down all that kind of stuff. It was a really, really good video. So a couple of questions. For probate, do you try and be sensitive to recently deceased in your wording, or just kind of ignore the fact and mention that you were interested in buying their house? We go about it completely different. We do not really market to probate clients directly as if they are probate clients. We market to them as if they are motivated sellers. That's it. But the main way that we get our probate deals are referrals from probate attorneys. This is something I teach the sub-2 students all the time, is how to get probate attorneys to send you free leads, so that instead of you calling all the probate clients while all other wholesalers and people are hitting them up and blowing them, go watch that testimonial. Watch the West testimonial from yesterday on my Instagram, and you'll hear him say, yeah, I was getting blown up by 50 other real estate investors. And essentially I went with Pace and his team because my attorney referred Pace and his team to me. So we don't really trifle with texting and blowing up probate clients. We prefer to go through the probate attorney because we know the little secret ninja tactics that we teach the sub2.com students. One more question up here that I really liked. How do you make your wholesale offers for local properties over phone, mail, or a sit down in person? I think this is one of Cody's favorite topics because when Cody and I first linked up, Cody, tell us that transition.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we first started working together, Pace came from Homevestors, right? So their model is go in person, have a sit down with the homeowner, get the contract in person. That's it. That's the strategy. And I was coming from, the education that I had gotten was get the contract over the phone. And even working as a realtor, like there was a lot of listing agreements because I dealt with some out-of-state clients that I was signing agreements over the phone and just doing DocuSign. So it was very natural to just get agreements done over the phone. So what we do now is we do pretty much most of our stuff virtually, but it was probably a good 6-month or longer transition when we started working together to go from everything in person contracted to about 50% in person, 50% virtual. And now, I mean, we're probably 80-90% virtual, and we're only in person when the team has to.
Or when Pace has a bug up his ass to go meet with the seller. Cause I actually really like doing it.
That too.
I like doing it. I love our jobs. I love what we do for a living. And whenever we have a seller that has a question about seller finance or subject to here locally, I'm like, let me go. I'll go on the appointment. I just love doing it. Also, one of the reasons I like going on appointments is because I record all of my face-to-face appointments. And I like to share those recordings I used to share them with the free Creative Finance Facebook group. But then we had somebody selling those recordings in a different wholesale Facebook group. They took my Dropbox link I was sharing. They bundled it into a $99 sellers training course, and they were selling it in other wholesale Facebook groups. So we had to shut that down. And now we only share those recordings with the sub-2 students. But I really do like going into the appointments to stay on top of my game and remain one of the best closers, I think, in terms of creative financing. So if a seller dies while under contract, can we get caught up in probate issues when the IRS is claiming taxes? Yes, you can. That's a very quick one. Ooh, okay. So Shelby Ashley, how much of a cash reserve do y'all usually keep for your buy and holds? Typically, what we have is 2 to 3 months, primarily 3 months on our buy and holds. On our lease options and our wraps, we have a little bit less money we care about. It's a very different tenant. So depending on your exit strategy, you have more or less. So for a rental, because you have renters that are going to have more vacancies and more repairs, you want to have more of a reserve. When you have lease options, you're going to have a little bit less. And then when you have a wrap, like Cody and I just sold a wrap the other day, we're going to have I honestly don't even know that we care about having any reserves on that house.
No. And honestly too, it's like you have a certain amount, like as you build your portfolio, the amount of money that you're going to have in reserves is going to change. Like, say if you had an average for each rental, 3 months of, reserves for that property, say you had $3,500, $4,500, whatever that might be. If you have 25, 30, 35, 40 rental properties, as you build your portfolio, it starts to not make sense. Like you don't really need to have, $120,000, $150,000 in reserves for, 25, 30, 35 properties. It's, because not every single property is going to go vacant at the same exact time and everything's going to break at the same exact time. Like you can, just keep it at a stable amount at that point.
Here's a really good question. Mamadou says, one of my friends that works in the medical field was asking me how she could become a private lender in real estate. Have her call us. We have a bunch of people that actually watch this show, are private lenders. So if you guys are looking to place money in our deals, look, there's Oscar. Speaking of which, Oscar is one of our favorite lenders. He's an unbelievable guy. I was going to be excited about going to Chicago and eating at his restaurant, but he just sold his restaurant. So, Mamadou, if you have people that are looking to invest in real estate, Cody and I are always doing projects. We're always looking for funding partners. So let us know, bro. Hit me up in the DMs on Instagram and let's have a conversation. Tell your friend to have a conversation with us. We'd be happy to place her money, show her how to get involved in what we're doing. Really simple. Honestly, being a private lender in real estate is probably the easiest thing to do, and it's probably the safest and best thing to do. Do you see the government stepping in again to help landlords once the moratorium is lifted? What do you think, Cody?
No, they don't help. I mean, I don't want to get political, but I don't think they really are caring to help landlords that much. I mean, I haven't seen anything where they're trying to help landlords. They're just mainly trying to help tenants. Thank God we hold our properties in Arizona versus, a market like California or, Washington or some of these areas where they're making it absolute nightmare for landlords. But I don't think they're going to do much for landlords.
Yeah, they're not going to do much for landlords. At the end of the day, it's a business for us. I mean, they didn't do much for, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of guys I know that do buy and holds that got some PPP loans and some SBA loans and all that kind of stuff to ride it out. So I think there's loans that we can get for sure.
Yeah.
But they're really not helping us. The fact that they actually have a moratorium is the opposite. It's the antithesis of helping us, right? And now the advantage is Cody and I primarily have lease options as our exit strategy. And so the majority of our properties we hold did not have any sort of issues. The only issue we had one issue on a property. It was 17th Avenue. Cody, tell us about that. Like how did, when COVID hit, what was that like? Tell everybody about what happened there.
So we have a property. It's in a historic neighborhood, super cute property. It has a little guest house in the back of it. And we actually got reached out to by a company called Loftium. And what Loftium does is they kind of arbitrage leases and Airbnb them. And so what they did was they signed a lease with us on the property. And what they do is they put a tenant in the front house and then they Airbnb the back house out. And that's how they make their money. And so literally within 2 weeks of COVID shutting everything down, the owner, not even, and they were a pretty sizable company. I mean, it sounded like they had 50 to 75 employees. I mean, so not huge, but they were, it was a decent sized company. And the owner of the company called me and it was like, hey, we're shutting down. We are not going to be around anymore. You can try to, I want to be, do the best that I can. We don't have much money in reserves left. I can give you $1,000 today if you sign off that, you want to get out of the lease. If you want to come after and, try to sue us, there's nothing to take because we've just lost everything. So good luck. That was the conversation. So
yeah, it was really interesting. That was at the beginning of COVID before things really started getting bad. So it was really interesting. Sergio, always with these questions, it's almost like you watch a lot of Ron LeGrand videos. If you buy a house on a wraparound mortgage, which I suggest you never buy a house on a wraparound mortgage, does the seller need to sign an addendum or a disclosure that they're aware of the due on sale clause? Yes. It doesn't matter if it's a wraparound mortgage or if it's a straight sub-2 with no equity. The seller always in our paperwork, always signs that they're aware of the due on sale clause. Always. Matt Johnson, Pace, do you remember that podcast you and Steve from Disruptors did almost a year ago? You said, I don't do mentoring. I would be no good at it. I would say you're doing quite well. Thank you, Matt. Honestly, it wasn't in my mind to do it. We had a lot of people. We actually had 3 companies reach out to me that wanted to run our mentoring program because they said, you guys are doing things that nobody else in the industry are doing. You guys are actually doing deals and it's a breath of fresh air. I think that was probably the biggest determining factor is that we started watching YouTube videos and reading other people's books and figuring out that most people out there talking about real estate are not doing deals. They're talking about there's a guy in Phoenix, Arizona. That I'm not going to say his name, but he claims that he did over 400 wholesale deals in Phoenix, Arizona. How many deals do you think they actually did, Cody?
4. Maybe
4. Meanwhile, he's got a coaching program. He's got a Lamborghini. He's got all this stuff. And it's not Cody Sperber. I actually like Cody Sperber. It's not Cody Sperber. I said Lamborghini, so don't let that trigger your mind. But
Nice
it
guy.
was somebody else, but we just saw all these people running around saying, we'll teach you, we'll teach you, we'll teach you. And then I'm like, this whole industry is full of people that are going and spending 20, 30, 40, 50. There's freaking fortune builders and rich dad, poor dad are charging $60,000 for mentoring on stuff that we teach for free. So I just kind of felt like it was kind of our responsibility to jump in and help people out. So anyway, this was a really good question, Cody. I have a really long, lengthy answer to this. I wonder what your answer is on this one. Why would you decide to lease option, and when would you decide to wrap?
I mean, lease option, definitely. If you have a balloon, you can't wrap it anyways. So, I mean, that would be pretty much the main thing. And then just depends on the area of town as well. I mean, that's a big factor, but lease option, if there's a balloon on the property and you're not obviously going to be keeping it long-term, wrapping it. Honestly, I only really like the wraps and the idea of wrapping on mobile homes, like the low price stuff. I mean, buy a mobile home like that. I just love, like, that lights me up more than anything, is thinking of buying mobile homes for 50 grand, 60 grand, and, putting 10 grand into them and selling them on a wrap for 120, 130,000. I mean, you can't do that with a house. Like, if you're wrapping a house, like, you're taking something over probably at 200,000 and maybe you're wrapping it and selling it at 230 and making some money on it. But it's like, you make so much more on those lower price ones. So there's my long.
So guys, do me a favor. We're about 20 minutes away from wrapping up. Do me a favor. We've got 250 people watching between Facebook and YouTube. We have 2 streams going, Facebook and YouTube. We've got about 250 people watching live. We really appreciate you guys coming out, supporting us, and asking really, really good questions. I think it adds a lot of value to other people. Do me a favor. Make sure that you guys are either liking or subscribing to the YouTube channel. Like this video, subscribe to it, hit the notification bell so you guys know when the Sunday service videos go live. We do a ton of lives on this YouTube channel, so please do me a favor. And if you have not subscribed, please do that. But more important, what I'm hoping you guys can do for us is, if you guys could take a screenshot with your phone, put it on your Instagram stories, do hashtag Sunday service, show us some love, show us some support. And then more importantly, look for Keen McFoy's Instagram name. Cody, do you know Keen's actual Instagram name?
Let me try to find it.
While you're looking for it, Cody's going to post that in the comments. Give a good heartfelt congratulations to Keen in Instagram stories. Take a photo of us, put it on your Instagram stories. Just show us some love if you guys don't mind. We don't get paid to do this. We're just happy to be here. There you go, Keen. Awesome. So really good question you just answered, and I'm going to answer that myself. Okay, why would I choose to do a lease option over a wrap? The number one reason why I would choose to do a lease option over a wrap is because of tax depreciation and tax write-offs. When you own a wrap, you actually get none of those because you're the lender. You are not the owner of the real estate. Okay, so you basically make cash flow, which is great, and you have no management over that property. You don't have to maintain the landscape. You don't have to collect the rent. You don't have to deal with any tenants or any of that kind of stuff. You basically have indefinite cash flow not indefinite. You have cash flow for the next 30 years. The problem is that asset will pay off and you will lose your cash flow. A lease option allows us to continue to get the tax depreciation. Now, I just went through how much money Cody's making in our wholesale, our fix and flip, and other businesses right now. And how old are you, Cody? 26?
26.
So Cody's 26. I don't want to tell you how much he's making because some of you might throw up in your mouth. But in our real estate business, Cody's making a very decent amount of money. And the number one way to make more money when you get to Cody's level is to spend less money to the IRS. And the number one way to spend less money to the IRS is actually utilizing tax depreciation on your rental properties to avoid federal income tax. So if I'm wrapping properties to an end buyer, I'm not getting tax depreciation. I only get that when I hold the property either from a rental, an Airbnb, a lease option, etc. So that's the number one reason why we hold properties. If you are a wrap investor, you are actually not a real estate investor. You are a lender, which is cool. And there's nothing against it other than the fact that lease options give you way more benefits than a wrap ever will. Eve says, I'm a newbie. Can I sell a probate that is already on Zillow through a realtor? I have a seller contacts and want to offer a cash option. Eve, I'm going to give you an honest answer that most people wouldn't give you is don't waste your time on Zillow and don't waste your time working with real estate agents. That's something that you can do when you get a little bit further in the game. But here's the way we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. If you are going to work with real estate agents to get your first deal, or you're going to work through Zillow to get your first deal, that's like running a mile around a track with no shoes on, and the track is made of pure gravel and glass. Can you do it? Yes. But the path is so much more challenging than if you were wearing shoes. And so this show is actually to talk to you about making sure you're wearing the right shoes, where to go find your list. Don't spend any time if the house is already on Zillow, because if it's already on Zillow, that means it's listed. Okay. You can't go on Zillow, get a property that's through probate, and then sell it to another real estate agent. And why would you want to sell a deal to a real estate agent? Why don't you sell it to a cash buyer? Real estate agents don't buy properties. Okay. Here's what I would do, Eve, is I would reach out to probate sellers, try and get them into a contract, and then find a cash buyer like Cody, myself, or some other investor in your local area, and avoid all the aggravation that comes with working with real estate agents. Okay. Alicia Collinsworth, Cody, give her some love.
Alicia, the mobile home to the no excuses program. I need to go like cherry pick that and tell Tino I need him to call it fast. I love mobile homes. My favorite.
Love it. Okay. So condos attractive to cash buyers? If so, how do we comp condos? That's a really great question for Cody. Cody, for some reason, you recently pulled a list of condos in Arizona. Why was that? And then jump into Terrence Lee's question.
Really just over the last couple of years, we've just done best with mobile homes, condos, and land. Those are our three best asset classes that we've seen the best results with, honestly. So condos are great. And as far as comping them, you want to comp them against condos in the same community. You don't want to ever comp condos that are in communities, in different condo communities. You want to stay within the same complex. So if you can't find any comps within the last 3 to 6 months in that community, you need to go back 9 months, a year, and just comp in that complex. Because condo complexes, they vary way too much. I mean, the years built are going to be different. The amenities are going to be different. The build type are going to be different. So you don't want to comp, one complex versus another one. You need to stay within that complex. General rule of thumb on that.
I've got a couple of people asking about CPAs. Do you guys want, if you guys tag us on Instagram and you guys congratulate Keen and you tag Cody and I will give you our CPA's information at the end of the show in about 7 minutes. So give us some love on Instagram. I'll share our CPA's information with you, give you his email so you can reach out to him. Ooh, DJ Martin, who is making $80,000 on a novation agreement. He's one of the sub 2 students. DJ, super congratulations. I'm so grateful we got to hang out today. I did a 7.5 hour live Zoom today for all the sub 2 students, and DJ's doing well on that deal. But Cody, you want to answer this question?
Main disposition with mobile homes is fix and flip. I mean, we flip most of them. We'll wholesale and fix and flip. Those are our two main strategies for them. We don't. We got one that we took over subject to recently, and then we sold it on a wrap. Other than that, primarily just wholesaling and then flipping them. Jonathan was actually asking too, what did you say? Condos, land, and mobile homes. But keep in mind, we're in Arizona. Mobile homes are very prevalent here. There's a lot of mobile home areas around town. Similar in Florida, there's a lot in Texas. So depending on your market, like when I was talking to Oscar, they don't have an abundance of mobile homes in Chicago, so it's going to depend on your market too. for that. But specifically in Arizona, mobile homes, condos, and land.
Yep. Let's see here. Couple things. Mobile homes are interesting. So I currently have, I'm going to zoom in on that. Let's look at the deal. We sold 3 of the Area 51 houses this week, by the way.
Nice.
3, bro. I'm going to pull that up. So guys, a lot of people know this. Some people don't, that are kind of new followers, but I am currently developing a 50 unit manufactured home development. I'm going to pull this up and do a little screen share action for you guys and show you this development. I wonder what Google Earth looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Street view, baby. There's no way that these houses are on here.
No, last year.
It's too recent. Yeah, hold on. I'll do a screen share anyway, just so people know what's up.
Maurice has a good question. You want me to answer that while you pull it up?
Sure. Maurice is one of the best. He's awesome.
Yeah. Maurice says, when do you decide between wholesaling and fix and flipping a property? If it's in town, that's, within the areas that we want to flip within, we're typically going to flip it. If it's in if you were on here listening and it's a deal that is like in a high crime area where we're going to have to deal with the property getting broken into and things like that occurring frequently, we're probably going to wholesale it. We don't want to really deal with it. But I mean, on the flips, if we're going to be making 40, 50, 60, 70,000 plus on the flip, we're going to flip it generally, but otherwise, we'll wholesale. If we're not going to make that much on the wholesale, like if we can make 10 grand assigning it, but if we could flip it and make 35, we're going to flip it. So it just depends on how much we're going to make.
So guys, this is a development that we're currently working on. There's 49 lots in here that are empty. Okay. The first lot was right here. We built this one. We sold it about 3 months ago. This one's now built and sold. This one is now built and sold. And this one is now built and sold. This one is built right here. This one is built right here. And then we're currently building these 3 right down in this area, right down here. So probably another year or so, and that whole development will get built out. Those are all manufactured homes. Why are we developing manufactured homes? Is because they are kind of the last frontier as far as affordable housing goes, right? And, you can build a brand new mobile home, manufactured home, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,600 square feet that would probably sell on the retail market for like 300, 350 in like normal conditions. But a manufactured home sells for 205, 215, super affordable and very, very cute. So, anyway, Mamadou, it's, the novation agreement is something that I don't really do a lot of videos on this on YouTube because I keep that kind of education for my students. DJ Martin is actually in the middle of one and I'm walking him through the process. He's about to make 80 grand on that deal, which is super cool. Let's see here. Lisa Montoya. She must have said something earlier. Let's see here. Yeah. Oh, she said, okay, I have been trying to do wholesale on-market deals. Real estate agent is a wholesaler friendly, but you are correct. It has been so hard. Yeah, real estate agents are challenging. Plus, here in Dallas, Texas, almost all lowball offers get outbid and houses end up selling for more than asking price. That's
the market right now. I wouldn't even be trying to touch anything on the market as far as getting it, trying to lock it up to wholesale it. I think it's, yeah.
Why are you building manufactured instead of buying them ready to go? Because I'm actually selling them. So we bought the land through creative financing. We bought the land through creative financing and we are developing brand new homes and then selling those houses on the retail market. So the only way to sell a brand new house is to build a brand new house, right? So we are building those bad boys. Brand new mobile home down the street just sold for $220, 1 acre. Yep.
There you go. Affordable housing.
Mamadou, sorry, bro. That's a novation agreement stuff. We have local investors call Cody and say, hey, I know Pace is doing a lot of novation agreements and, recording his calls with sellers. Can you share those recordings with us? And the answer is sorry. I keep the majority of that stuff for our students. Let's see here. We share a lot. We help a lot. There's just certain things that we try and keep internally and give additional value to people who are kind of serious about their education. Let's see. This one is an interesting one. Paula asked a good question. She says, how long would you keep a rental for depreciation reasons? How many people would say sell after a set number of years? Paula, you get depreciation for 27 and a half years, according to the IRS. So in my opinion, you keep that property for forever. And then at the end of 27 and a half years, you can 1031 exchange that property. You can sell it, 1031 exchange it into another property and avoid the tax depreciation recapture. And then there's all sorts of other strategies to get rid of the tax depreciation recapture. But if you've got a cash flowing property that's paying down, my question is, why would you really ever want to get rid of it? Ooh, here's a good one. Cody, why don't you answer this question?
I was just going to say on that too, real quick. If you wanted to get some cash out of the deal, you could always cash out refi, because refinancing is debt. So you're not going to get taxed on the cash that you're pulling out of the property. So you can always just keep the property. Are you targeting mobile homes only in Arizona or other markets? Arizona and Florida, those are the markets that we primarily work in. Florida has a good market for mobile homes as well. So yeah, AZ in Florida.
Check this out. Matt Beard says, I'll give anyone $500 whoever uses batch driven to door knock and gets a deal before our team this week. So guys, if you don't know Matt Beard, definitely follow him on Instagram. In fact, if you have never signed up for batch driven, I would go to batchdriven.com/Matt. And if you use the code Matt, what do you get with that, Cody? What are their benefit?
50 free skip traces.
So they get 50 free skip traces. Do they get like a free trial or anything like that?
Yeah, 2-week free trial.
How badass would that be if somebody downloaded the 2-week free trial and then beat Matt's ass to getting a deal this week?
Yeah, that would be. I mean, that's asking a lot. Matt crushes it at door knocking. So
Sergio says, why did you change the name to Batch Driven? Because we actually partnered with the batch owners. We're partners with them. And so we decided that we wanted to bring it all underneath one umbrella, make it super cohesive as all one batch brand. And so we are now Batch Driven. Cody and I own Batch Driven with the batch, the whole batch ownership. So very, very cool. We're super excited about it. If you guys have never used Batch Driven, you are missing out. Our team, I don't know how many appointments we have tomorrow. I think we have 2 appointments that I am personally going on. This one's a good one. Damn. What happens if you sub 2 and the seller files bankruptcy? Number one, if a seller files bankruptcy on a property they no longer own, they don't own the property anymore. Most of the time, the bankruptcy does not name that property in the bankruptcy because the seller does not own it. They own the debt. And guess what is actually happening if you own the house sub 2 and you are paying the mortgage? There's not a default. So they very rarely will actually include that debt in the bankruptcy hearing. And if they do, all you do is you get the court's permission to omit that from the bankruptcy due to the fact that you are now the new owner, not the previous owner. You have title, you have deed. This is why I prefer not to buy in a performance agreement, or I'm sorry, not a performance agreement, but a agreement for sale. I prefer to have title and deed, full control of that property, so that if there is the event of a bankruptcy, the judge can see that we have title, deed, and we control the property entirely, and we are performing on that mortgage. Therefore, there's no need to name it in the bankruptcy. What are the best niches to door knock? There's only one, in my opinion.
Pre-foreclosures.
Pre-foreclosures, guys, and there's a reason for that. Now, you know what we should do is next week we should actually have Matt come on to Sunday service and talk all about door knocking. Would you guys like that if we brought Matt on next week and talked all about door knocking, KPIs, opening lines, how many doors do you have to knock to get a contract, all that kind of stuff? Would you guys want to see that next week with Matt as a special guest? Let me know with a comment yes in the chat. Jamari, you're the man. Last year in 2019, the majority of our creative finance purchases came from pre-foreclosures. And so we're super excited that COVID is kind of dissipating. We're out door knocking and crushing it. So if you guys want to know scripts, You guys want to know features with batch driven. You want to know how Matt is going out and running our door knocking team. I would do two things. Number one, tune into Sunday service next week. We'll have Matt on as a guest. Looks like we're getting a lot of yeses. And then number two, go follow the Instagram account. What's the Instagram account name right now?
Well, we're just changing it over to batch driven. It will be batch driven, but I think it's still going on as we literally just transitioned it over the weekend.
All right, then just go follow Matt Beard. Don't follow that at all. But Matt Beard,
it's changed now. Batch driven app.
Okay, batch driven app is the name of the name of the Instagram account. Why should you follow that? You should follow that because our team is going to be documenting themselves out in the street, talking to sellers, doing recordings, all that kind of stuff. So you guys can learn how to also go do those types of deals. Ooh, this one's easy. I would like to see a deal from start to signing of contract. Easy. We do that all the time.
100%. Here's one. Mark, any experience with call motivated sellers as a company? So this is actually cool. I was just on the phone with the owner of Call Motivated Sellers today. So Call Motivated Sellers is great if you want US based cold callers. They're the company to use if you want US based cold callers. We use vahub.com for our cold callers. They're Filipino based. If you want American US based cold callers, Call Motivated Sellers is who you want to use. Otherwise, vahub.com is, that's the company that we use for our Filipino cold callers.
Love it. So Mark, I get this question all the time. Mark says PropStream data or batch data. We've tested it all. Cody's constantly testing new stuff as well as it comes out. Batch data is the best. Even when Cody didn't want to believe it was the best, and he was digging his feet in the sand where he's like, man, batch was just all the hype around town. Everybody was talking about batch and Cody's like, it's hype. And ultimately when we switched over, our conversion rates went way, way up. Our deal flow went way up. Our lead flow went way up. PropStream actually doesn't own their data. And so PropStream's data is actually inaccurate. If I asked you a question, I said, type in yes. If you found that PropStream's data is highly inaccurate, you're going to get a lot of yeses in the comments. We like PropStream for certain things. So it's not don't use PropStream. It's just in terms of data, we'll go pull like an expired listing from PropStream. If you guys are wanting to try PropStream, go ahead and do that. But look, Jonathan Dunn throwing in the yes. But we'll pull like an expired listing list from PropStream and then take it to batch and have batch skip trace it because the data is far superior.
Yep.
Paula, if your market is too expensive, would you recommend purchasing in another state, and is it easy to manage? The answer is yes. I would always go where the path of least resistance is to get multiple deals underneath your belt. Stop being one of these people that are living in Los Angeles and think I have to master this in my backyard.
Yeah.
Stop being somebody in San Francisco. It doesn't mean it can't be done, but again, it's like running a marathon without shoes. It can be done. It's just a lot more challenging. Go somewhere, even Phoenix, which is highly competitive. Our market is more competitive, in my opinion, than any market in the country, but our price point is not $2 million for the median home. And so you can actually do deals here relatively easy.
And especially as far as managing too. I mean, when it comes to management, I wouldn't have any property that I'm going to hold as a rental in a market that isn't landlord friendly, meaning that the government in that market is friendly to landlords versus tenants. Like, cause somewhere in like California, one of your sub-2 student space was telling us about how it took them a year to evict a bad tenant. I mean, that is not something I even want to touch with a 50-foot pole.
Right. This is an interesting question that only a very, very smart person would ask this question. So we have students in Seattle crushing it, doing well. There's deals to be had in Seattle, Tacoma, those kind of places. They're expensive, but you can do deals there.
For sure.
So check this out. Do some of the same data companies have different names, but the same INO, which basically means white labeling? The answer is yes. It is actually surprising because Cody and I are partners with the batch owners in another business, obviously batch driven. When we're inside that office, there's people from all over the country that fly in, other real estate gurus that are flying in and they have batch private label their skip tracing company to make it be perceived as if it's their skip tracing company. I won't name any names because it'll give away their thing, and that's not my business. But people come in and use batch as their white labeling service, even though they're branding it as 123 skip tracing. Behind the scenes, it's actually batch. So I would absolutely, guys, check this out. If you have not tried out batch, you can go to batchleads.io/pace, and you'll get 500 free text messages with that code, and 14-day free trial with Batch Leads. I would go check it out. If you're using Roar for your texting, or you're using Skip Genie, or you're using whatever it is you're using, go try Batch out and see if you actually like it. Cody, you want to answer this question?
So what I would say, just as far as like looking at what your budget looks like, that's what you want to look at. But if your budget is very small, I would say, one, I would use Batch Driven, because you can utilize that app for like $100 a month and use just the pre-foreclosures. So then you can just be working off of a small niche list of pre-foreclosures. You have access to the data. You can call them and text them utilizing that app. So I would do that. When it comes to actually pulling lists and actually putting lists together to do larger text campaigns or cold calling, large amounts of data, I would say definitely pull the lists. You're going to spend a lot of time building and creating your own custom list. We have VAs that do it, like the code violation list here in Maricopa County. I have a VA that pulls, is doing data entry every single day of that data. So, the answer is both, but as you're starting off, I would say start with a small list, like a pre-foreclosure list, work that and build off of that.
Kind of along the same lines of what Cody's talking about is Keith Mace. Really good question. I've seen videos where you talk about using your time wisely, making offers over the phone, more offers per day. Lately, I've heard you talk about door knocking. We've been talking about it for probably a year and a half. What's best for somebody starting out? I'm going to give you a really generic answer that you don't want to hear, and then I'll give you an answer you do want to hear. The answer is the method that works the best is the method that you'll actually do consistently. Everybody's personality is a little bit different. I'm somebody that would prefer to go door knock than go cold call. I hate cold calling. Now, I love talking to sellers. I hate cold calling. Two completely different things. I would prefer to be out in the field knocking doors. So if I'm low on a budget, I don't know what list to pull. I don't know any of that kind of stuff. And I don't know, I don't want to spend my money on marketing thinking I'm just going to waste it. I would just go download Batch Driven. I would drive for dollars and I would knock for doors. And if I'm too afraid to knock doors, I would leave notes on people's houses for pre-foreclosures. And that way there's no intimidation factor. We had a seller wanting to sell us 14 houses. Sticky note Jack is what I called him. Brandon Beal. Why do I hate cold calling? Because it's a waste of time. It's inefficient. We cold call, Brandon. I just personally don't cold call. We have VAs from VA Hub cold call for us. It's inefficient. It's a waste of your time as a business owner. Okay, Brandon knows. He says, I'm the same way. So I'm like, what are you talking about, Brandon? Cold calling sucks. Does anybody, guys, give me a yes if you think cold calling sucks. It's the worst. Now, that's why I never built a business on me cold calling myself. I have cold called and we have done deals. But the reality is at the end of the day, in order to scale a business and make the kind of money that Cody makes right now, you have to scale and get out of cold calling. So the reality is if you're getting out of cold calling, it's really not a money-making endeavor. Cold calling can be given to a cold calling service like VA Hub, or like Cody said, Cody, what was the name of the company? Called Motivated Sellers?
Yeah.
They're a lot more expensive than VA Hub, but they're American-based. So if that's something that's important to you, you should definitely check them out. We don't get paid to talk about them at all, but get rid of cold calling from your life as fast as possible. Mamadou, what is the intro like when someone says, open the door to you? Mamadou, go watch the YouTube video that we, go watch the video with Brent Daniels, pre-foreclosure mastery. I go through all of that stuff. Omar, is batch skip tracing and batch leads the same company? Yes, they are. So Omar, again, Go check it out. Just download a free trial. It's super easy to go like sift through, see if you like it, and you can cancel anytime. Alec Hawthorne, do you feel like you should cold call yourself before hiring somebody? No. Alec, I love you. You're one of my favorite people of all time. You ask some of the best questions, but let me ask you a very straight up conversation. Do you think you should learn how to perform brain surgery before you hire somebody to do brain surgery on you? Do you think you should learn how to build a house before you hire somebody to build a house for you? No. The people that say you need, here's the thing, you should learn how to work hard and you should learn how to understand business, but absolutely not. You should not learn how to cold call in order to get into this business. If you have the budget, the fastest way to success in this business is just hiring a VA. If you have the budget. Now, if you don't have the budget, it's a completely different conversation. The reason why people feel like they're floundering and why a lot of people go hire mentors and coaches in this business is because a lot of people feel like they need personalized attention. So here's the reality. I don't know. Here's what's funny. What's the difference between cold calling and cold door knocking? The homeowner doesn't know you're coming, right? Keith, I hate sitting at a desk. I hate sitting there and holding a phone and staring at a computer. I just don't like that universe. I prefer to be out in the field, listening to a podcast between my door knocking sessions, which I don't door knock anymore. I go on appointments with my team, but we have a door knocking team that knocks doors for us. Okay. So I would just prefer the atmosphere alone over cold. I'd rather cold door knock and leave notes on people's houses and drive for dollars while I'm in my car listening to a podcast. I can stop into a gas station anytime I want. I get to look at houses. I get to do all sorts of cool stuff. But if I'm locked to a computer and cold calling, oh my gosh, I hate that universe. That's my personality. My personality, just FYI. Bro, help me out. Tell me how to pronounce your name. I'm saying Mama Dow. It's how it's, look at the pronunciation. Mama Dow. Bro, hook me up, please. I hate butchering people's name. Please help me out. Jessica Angel, what's the best sources of lead gen besides cold calling that's working for you guys? Cody, jump on that, brother.
Cold call, texting. Those are the two things that we do outside of door knocking. And we've stayed steady, consistent on those for a couple of years now. Those are what we see working best for us.
Cody, how much should I expect to spend with a VA cold calling to get a deal? Just a ballpark figure. I would say one VA should be able to get you 1.5 to 2 deals a month, somewhere around there, if you have good data and you're pulling a decent list. So your total cost to get a deal with a cold caller, lists, all that kind of stuff, I would say that you're probably about $1,500 per contract, somewhere in there. And if your average contract brings in $15,000, what's our average assignment fee right now in wholesale? Like 13 to 15 grand?
Yeah, $12,900.
Okay, so obviously we have a bookkeeper that tells us all that kind of stuff. So Jonathan Dunn, are you guys not running PPC? I think PPC is one of the worst possible lead sources of all time for our specific market.
Yes.
Okay, our specific market in Phoenix, it is overran. Why do people do PPC? Okay, why do
they get deals fast, but it's extremely expensive in our market, especially.
Okay, so Baraket says, what's the best way to acquire a pre-foreclosure list, Cody? Batch driven?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go and be just calling them one by one, batch driven. If you're going to be if you want to pull the list and then upload it into a dialer to, dial through a lot of them at the same time, I would do batch leads.
Love it. So the difference you will never hear someone say, you're the 6th person to knock on my door today. That is 100% correct. Jamari, who actually door knocks, he knows what it's like. Getting belly to belly somebody is the number one. It's going to be in, I believe, 2021 and 2022, the number one deal source is going to be coming from door knocking and cold calling. Why? Texting is going to be challenging because the carriers are going to continue to squash it until it becomes almost impossible to get through people. It's just going to be too hard. So you're going to have Facebook ads, same thing, trash.
I have a couple of friends doing it, and in other markets, and it still doesn't seem too exciting from what I've seen. Omar is saying, I want to hire somebody using VA Hub. What software should I have be subscribed to in order to help my VA be as efficient as possible? I mean, call tools, as far as for having them cold call, just have call tools set up, prop stream or batch. As far as data wise, batch is going to have better data. And, then skip trace to put it in the dialer. I mean, that's really it. And then you just want to have somewhere for those leads to go, Omar. But yeah, that's it. I mean, as far as helping them be as successful as possible, just, setting expectations of what you're looking for and communicating with your client success manager and your VA on a weekly basis. I think that's one of the biggest things that people have a challenge with, is they just think a virtual assistant's a robot. They're a real person with a real family, with real goals and, real ambitions. So, we treat our VAs really well. And, we have a lot of VAs with VA Hub, and, I have a really good relationship with a lot of our virtual assistants. I'm talking to them, all of them at least once a week, but a few of them every single day.
Yeah, really good question there, Omar. So Charlie says, what's your opinion on Facebook ads? In our market, I'm going to give you guys a lot of information on our markets. Facebook ads and PPC are for people that don't want to hire somebody, essentially. They want the leads coming and calling them. Okay, that's what a PPC or a website lead does for you. So you do a lot of waiting, sitting around and waiting for a lead to call you. That's what PPC and website ads and all that kind of stuff do. We prefer the proactive approach and something that we control our own budgets. When you look at a cost per click, sometimes cost per contract on a PPC is like $4,000 per contract. Cost per deal on a PPC is about $4,000. A cost per deal on a direct mail marketing campaign is between $5,000 and $7,000. But a cold call, a text contract, how much do you think those cost? They cost about $1,200 to $1,500 per contract. They're a fraction. Then when you're knocking doors, your cost per contract is almost zero. It is so inexpensive to get door knocking deals. It's only the cost of gas and maybe like the batch driven ad or app. That's it. What about Mojo Dialer? That thing is for, I don't want to bash that. Do you want to bash that, or did you like it?
I use Mojo Dialer as, that's what I used when I was working as a realtor for 3 years. Thought it was fine. It has a little mini built-in CRM in it, and you could dial up to 3 lines at a time. It's an okay starting point. I would move to call tools as quickly as possible, though, because with call tools, you can dial up to 10 lines at a time. You're going to reach a lot more people with that. But Mojo is not bad to start off with. I can't say I hate it because I used it and I liked it, but not for this model. Like if you're working as a realtor and that's what you're doing, it's great for that, but not for this.
Sergio asked a really good question. This is the 5th time he's asked it. Sergio, I do see the comments. I do appreciate you, but I've already answered 2 of your questions prior. So I was trying to give other people some love. But since we're getting to the end of the show and you have been persistent, I like to reward persistence. If the ARV is 200K, blah, 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 your question is, what is the benefit of buying on a sub 2 and creating a second note versus buying on a wrap? Here's the number one benefit. It's for the seller. If the seller sells to you on a wrap, they don't have the ability to sell their position and get out of that deal. What if the seller, who's the lender in that deal, is wrapped up in a wrap and they want to sell their position or sell their note off to a secondary note investor? They can't do that. That's why you buy it on a hybrid, so that the seller can actually go and sell their position, their second lien position, and get out of that transaction and replace it with somebody else. A wrap cannot do that. It puts the seller in a bad situation. I don't enjoy buying on wraps. I think it actually is a disservice to the seller. Hopefully that answers your question.
Here's a good question from Mark. Do you guys think cold calling with foreign VAs is just picking off the low-hanging fruit? How many deals get missed by the lack of skill by the VA? I would say that depends a lot on the VA. we have some freaking gangster VAs with some of the ones that we have. And we do continuing education, right? So like VA Hub, they do continued training with the VAs to help them get better week by week. I go a step further and do additional professional education with my VAs. So I spend, and it's not that much time, honestly, I spend about 2 hours a week doing professional education with our VAs. 1 hour is I play 3 recordings of calls with my whole VA cold calling team, and I just critique them. And we have our CSM, our client success manager, on there too. So we do critiquing, and our CSM is doing critiquing of those calls. And then I do one other call with all of my VAs, which is an hour, just teaching them more about our business, because everyone's business is different. Some people just wholesale, some people flip, some people buy creative deals. So what I do is I want to help teach our people. I want to help them understand, all our virtual assistants understand what we're doing in our business, so that they're more skilled on the phone. And every business is going to be a little bit different. So if you're just hiring them and then not telling them what your business is, like for example, if you do creative finance and your cold callers just calling thinking you need wholesale deals, they're not going to push through some leads that could fit for creative deals. They're only going to push through the deals they think could only be a wholesale deal. So I would say I don't think a lot of deals are being missed by skills. I think a lot of deals are being missed by lack of proper expectations being set.
I agree. I agree with that 100%. We hired American cold callers very, very quickly in the very beginning. Actually, before Cody and I were partners, I had American cold callers, and I thought they were more prima donnas than they were anything else. They essentially, what I ran into, I don't want to get into that. It's a whole long story, but yes, if you are not training them, you're only going to get low hanging fruit. But if you're actually spending the time like they do at VA Hub, you're going to get a lot more of the amazing deals. Mick Life Changer, I'm going to answer this one as the last question of the night, because Cody just privately texted me and said, Pace, I'm hungry. Please let me go. He didn't literally say that. He just said, I'm hungry. Mick Life Changer says, how do you separate your personal wealth from your business? What do you think about that, Cody?
It's a great question. I mean, you want me to answer that? I can go on that one.
Yeah, let's do that.
So I would think it's about having a strategy and thinking of you as an individual, as a business. Like the way I look at all of our different businesses, they're all their own separate entity. They all have their own separate profit and loss. They all have, the taxes that they're responsible for. So I think it's really looking at, like, you have to start looking at money in a way that it's not money. Isn't just money. Money is a tool. Money is a resource. So when within the business, like, all the businesses have to generate a certain amount of money, and they do different things. The businesses are investing and growing assets as a company. The money that is moved out of the business and then brought over to myself personally, I distribute it out into multiple different things, multiple percentages. A really great book that I would recommend people to read is by T. Harv Eker, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And that book talks about the different percentages of what you should do with your own personal money. Profit first is great for your business. It's going to show you how to manage your company's money so that you're constantly making sure that you're in profit, your taxes are being paid, and your company is healthy, and how to know if your company's healthy. Taking it from the business over to you personally, when it comes down to your personal finances, I personally use the T. Harv Eker method from the Millionaire Mindset, because it's broken down into where you're spending your money on fun, where you're spending your money on like long-term, savings for, vacations, things like that, where you're spending your money on your necessities. Are you spending too much on your necessities? Where should that be? So it kind of breaks it down. I like doing the percentages from Profit First and T. Harv Eker. So that's really it. I mean, the businesses are holding assets and they're growing, and we make sure the businesses are healthy. The money that comes out of that, for me personally, I separate them into the different percentages, and they go and distribute based on that.
I am a completely different mindset of you. I actually don't separate my personal wealth from my business at all.
Mm-hmm.
primarily for tax reasons. I don't have anything in my personal name. So if anybody is transferring any assets in your personal name, you're doing it incorrectly. Not one multimillionaire, multi-billionaire has anything in their personal name. Not even their personal house, not even their car, their insurance, their cell phone plan is not even in their personal name. So there really is not a need to literally separate your wealth from your business into your personal name. I don't know that that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
But
no, a little bit different. Like I don't keep like none of those things, just to clarify, actually go and stay in my personal name. I more so mean like percentages broken down to like invest in like whole life insurance policy, dividend paying life insurance policies, money that can go into, silver or, other assets. They come into the name technically into the S corp, right? But that's just going to another level. They go into the S corp and then they go into another entity that holds an asset in something else. Nothing ever stays in the personal name.
Yeah. So Mick, life changer. So that's a really good question. I think it's probably my favorite question of the day, but I wish I had a little bit more context on what you're talking about, because I don't personally know one multimillionaire that puts anything in their actual name. So I'm wondering if you're saying, how do I have I wonder if the other question he could be talking about is, do you look at your wealth in terms of like your family and your health? Is that the wealth you're talking about in terms of personal?
True.
Because the reality is none of my money is in. If you looked at my personal checking account, you would be embarrassed for me. If you looked in my business account or our portfolio, you would feel like you need to work harder. So they're completely two different situations, right? So, I would love to know a little bit more about that. Actually, you know what we should do, Cody, is we should bring on a life insurance guy onto our show here in the next couple of months and have a longer form conversation about all that kind of stuff. Guys, if you got any value tonight, please do us a favor. Give us some love on Instagram, maybe on a story, maybe on your post. Tag Cody, tag myself, and definitely tag Keen, who's the winner of the first deal giveaway. Next week, we are going to have Matt Beard come on the show, Sunday service, and we're going to talk all about door knocking and locking up creative finance deals through door knocking, through driving for dollars and virtually driving for dollars, all next week. So we really, really appreciate you guys so much. Thank you and have a great